African Community, where it is marking 20 years of its existence. The body is discussing the prevailing challenges on trade between the member countries, amongst others. Now let's listen in.
Well, the East African Community has just turned 2 decades. Now think about it, 20 years. And what we are aiming to achieve is integration of the East African countries. 6 as we stand, starting with 3, then we've increased. That is growth, progress. But a lot of questions also surrounding this integration process. Right now, I'm joined by the Cabinet Secretary, the Minister of East Africa Community and Regional Development, Mr. Aden Mohammed. Thank you very much for speaking to us. The first question will be, the integration process, are we on the right path, and how so?
We are on the right track. It's a journey, it's a marathon, it's never a sprint. We are dealing with sovereign states that are coming together for a common cause, for a common objective, to benefit the citizens of the country, or, of their respective countries. And this journey started in 1967. We had a false start. After 10 years, it didn't work. A few years later, 1999, this was signed as a treaty of the 3 East African members of states, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. Now we are 6. And the whole idea is to make sure that eventually we have a political federation that will underpin some of the activities around trade, around market operations, around monetary unions that will be taking place within this region. So the journey is moving in the right direction. The pace could be faster in some areas, but I think we have made significant progress, and the results speak for itself. We are today the most integrated regional economic bloc on the continent of Africa. And I'm talking about comparing that to ECOWAS within West Africa, or the Northern African region, or the Southern African region like SADC and others. East Africa is a region that trades most within itself, most integrated, and most progress in terms of people-to-people movements and the journey and the objective that it sets for itself.
Definitely, you've mentioned the, intra-East African community trade, and living in a globalized world, oftentimes we tend to compare ourselves with, for example, Asia. Their intra-Asia trade as a continent is quite high, over 50%. In East Africa, right now it stands at 12%. You're aiming in the next 5 years to double that to close to 24-25%. If you may mention some of the strategic moves that you're making, to be in specific, just in brief, to make sure that we double this trade amongst ourselves.
The trade within EAC is not actually 12%. Intra-Africa trade across the whole Africa is what stands at 12%. And the continent wants to move that much further, and that is why the Africa Continental Free Trade has been set up and established as a way of increasing the intra-Africa trade. I think within EAC we are beyond 20%, and we are, as I said, the most, the region that trades amongst itself most compared to some of the others. But what are we doing to make that possible? Number one is to make sure that the customs union, which has been in operation since 2005, is embedded, it works. Policies as it relates to tax is now much more aligned than we have seen before. The ministers of finance in EAC read its budgets once. One day, across all the EAC member states, with common policies as it relates to tariffs and external taxes as it relates to goods and services. Those are things that are working, and that is what is making it happen today. And so if anybody, any member states today import goods through the Port of Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, or any other place, it doesn't matter. The customs charge and tariff is the same. It's identical. And that is what a single customs territory does. And that is what we hope to make it possible for us to trade with one another much more than any of the other blocs that don't have a customs union in place.
Another big dream that you've had is integration when it comes to currencies, and this was, foreseen so that there is seamless, especially when it comes to trade, there is seamless movement of goods and also currency exchange in East Africa. I'm meant to understand that we have made progress in that regard. The public sees, we no longer have the East African coin that we should be looking forward to. What is being done in that regard?
You see, when nations are coming together, those of us who think these things can be done 2 years, 5 years, are in a big dream. You can imagine, even within any single country, the amount of things that can be achieved within a 5-year period is not much, because of just the fact that you are dealing with public policy issues that requires a lot of debate, a lot of different arms of government to come in, the citizenry to actually have their views. After all, this is about their life and their future. Now, the treaty that was signed for EAC, that is underpinned by the 4 pillars that I talked about.